So welcome everyone to Women Who Rock with Success Media. This is our second segment on today. And so thank you for following us back over here to Women Who Rock with Success, where we're going to be doing a business summit today. And we're going to be sharing with you, with our experts of startup business. So a lot of times people may take to social media as their startup, and perhaps they may use that as a platform, but that's not actually really totally effective. You may have to start from a different paradigm in order to be more professional, more effective, and to know where your clients and your audience are when you're trying to start up a business. So, of course, we already have our first guest that's in the studio, and she is none other than Ms. Brittany Alexander, and she will be sharing with you a little bit about her. And so we're going to get started and tell the audience a little bit about you and how you got started into business.
Thanks, Diane. I'm very happy to be here. So I got started, I'm an attorney, right?
Okay.
I run a 7-figure law firm. So I got started in business by practicing law, being an attorney, right? But I always wanted to have my own business, and I didn't necessarily know what that was going to be, but I wanted to have my own company. And as time kind of went on, I realized that I was building a personal brand, marketing online, building an audience of people that knew, that I practiced law and that I did insurance claims.
Okay.
And they started sending me business. And I realized, hey, I could really build a brand and build a company in this space. And so I ended up getting to a point where I was working for another firm and I was building my brand, building my audience so much that I had so much business coming in that I said, I could do this for myself. And so then I launched my own law firm. And within our first full year, we hit 7 figures in revenue, not even in settled cases, but in revenue.
Okay.
And haven't looked back, been going since.
Okay, great, great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you for joining with us today, and we welcome you to the show. So our second guest is Melissa Bauknight, and she's going to be sharing with us a little bit about her and about her brand. And so welcome, Melissa, to the platform today.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Melissa Bauknight, and I am a business and feminine leadership coach. And to get to this point in my career, I started off in corporate for about 15 years, and I have a lot of interest in personal development and personal growth, and kind of a healthy obsession with what makes us human and what drives us, and how do we like create our own lives and live a life that actually feels like it belongs to us, that we enjoy. Things
Right.
that seem very basic, but I think are the most important parts of our life. And through that journey, I decided that being in corporate was no longer in alignment for me. And even though I had this sexy big career that I'd always wanted, and I thought, how dare I? Like, who am I to get rid of this career that I worked so hard to establish? But I just knew that if I kept going in that direction, I'd be abandoning myself.
Hmm.
I'd be abandoning this bigger vision that was brewing inside of me. And I had known that I'm meant to liberate women, and I meant to liberate myself first so that I can liberate other women. And so the journey was that I started a side business through a network marketing company, grew that to the top of the company, and that enabled me to quit my corporate career so that I could then actualize my full vision, which is always forming, but to launch my business coaching. And now I get to help other women create soul aligned careers. So really looking at, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is this in alignment with my core values? Am I abandoning myself?
Hmm.
And it's been a wild ride, but it's the best one I've ever been on.
Okay, absolutely. So welcome and thank you once again for that. So we're going to go back to you, Brittany. So we're going to start with, we're going to kind of deal with the basics on today. And so it's very important as to the when, what type of product that you have, why you want to start a business, why you do what you do, why an entrepreneur, when is the best time for the entrepreneur finances. All of these things play key roles into starting up a business. So we want to talk about the what. Okay, so what it is. So, of course, you have already shared with us that you're an attorney. Okay, and so that's something that you wanted to do. So, how important is that for the entrepreneur to be able to distinguish as to what it is their idea, what it is that they may want to do, and how do they stick with that?
Well, the first thing to do is to create proof that you can do what you say you can do, that you're capable of producing the results and the outcome. So, I mean, that comes through validating your idea and then building your personal brand to establish authority in your space. So I'm a lawyer, right? So I handled cases. I could show people that, hey, I know what I'm talking about by producing content and speaking with people about how I handle insurance claims and how I help people get money for their home insurance losses so they can pay for repairs when the insurance company doesn't pay or doesn't pay enough. And so I built that level of proof saying, hey, I've done this. Look how much I actually know. I can handle your problem if you have one, or if you know somebody who has one. So I think that's the first piece, is really establishing that level of proof and building your authority to show that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing. And even, as women especially, there's always kind of that little tidbit of maybe bias, maybe a little bit of prejudice saying, I don't know if she really knows. But if you can establish proof, I've done this 100 times over and here are the results that I've gotten, then you can show that clients can come to you and pay you to do what you say you're going to do. So I think that's the most important thing, is establishing the proof and showing that you have the authority to handle a client's issue, if you will.
Okay, absolutely. So this question is for you, Melissa. So after we have done all of that, we have established is what Brittany has already shared with us. So what about the win? What about the win? Because a lot of times people start with a business, but they don't know when the opportunity may present itself. And then after that, we're going to talk about the networking, which I think is very, very important. And I know that Brittany can be able to elaborate on that one as well. So what about the win? Because a lot of times, as we already shared before, sometimes people go to Facebook. They think Facebook is the number one place to start a business, and they can be also wrong for that, because sometimes your audience may not always be on Facebook. So when would be the best time that you would suggest for a person to be able to start a business?
It's when you decide, honestly. So I work a lot with people who are creating businesses that are derived from a deeper place in their soul. So it's a less traditional model, perhaps. And I look at like navigating the feminine and the masculine around starting a business. So we have a perfectly outlined strategy, but if their belief isn't in alignment with what they want to create, then they're not ready. And it's something that only they can know. So one of the things I talk a lot about and teach is a deep listening to themselves, because what is a great time for me might not be your journey. And the way in which I love women creating businesses is in a way that really works for them. So it's not a straightforward answer, but it's having a supportive community that can help you determine when is the right time. How do I listen to myself to determine that? So that I'm not forcing it, so I'm not pushing it, so I'm not being in a huge hurry about it. Because when you're bringing forward a gift that, especially as an entrepreneur, it takes a lot of work and resilience to stick with it. And building that core foundation of belief in yourself, trust in yourself, and having a supportive network is critical, in my opinion, before you decide, hey, it's time. But I believe that when you make that decision, only you can know that. So that's my answer for that.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. So when it comes to networking, Brittany, and I know that you network with a lot of clients, a lot of attorneys, a lot of perhaps maybe after five affairs, with your colleagues and what have you. So when it comes to networking, a lot of times we, as I stated before, Facebook, we run the Facebook, but is face-to-face networking, because I know I did a lot of BNIs. That's a business national business networking international organization. It's huge and what have you. A lot of people come out, attorneys, doctors, lawyers, So when it comes to networking, could you share with us a little bit how effective that is, versus sometimes we may not feel that Facebook is where all the people are. But sometimes it's good to just have that one-on-one contact with people.
Right. I totally agree with that. One-on-one is important. I think that social media in its own is networking if you're using it in the right way. So, I mean, when I produce content, for my clients, not only are the potential clients seeing it, but so are the potential referral sources or the people who may own homes or may know somebody who has a problem. So you're opening the door to hundreds or thousands of people that you could network with. I mean, imagine being in a networking event with thousands of people in one room. I mean, you couldn't possibly talk to them all at once. But if you have your message going out on social media, if you will, you're already establishing that networking. And it goes so far as to, so here's an interesting story. So I had a few troll comments, if you will, on a few of my posts. And this happens often, but this one was particularly nasty. And part of me wanted to delete it, take down the post. I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. But part of me was like, you know what, I'm going to leave it up and see what happens. And what happened was plenty of people started coming to support me. So they were responding to this nasty comment saying, Britt, you're doing a great job. I love the content you're putting out there. This is so awesome. And one of those comments included somebody who lived in my area who said, hey, I think we might have some synergy between our businesses. Let's get together for lunch. We actually got together for lunch this week, and she's already referring people to my firm. So that's just an example of like the power of using social media as that initial networking piece. Now, when you're in an actual networking event, I think that also kind of gives you a leg up and lets you be the big person in the room. So ever since I started posting content on social media that was really niche to my industry, now when I go to networking events with roofers and adjusters and other attorneys, I hear people literally calling out across the room, Lawyer Britt, because that's my Instagram handle.
Okay.
And it's like that opening, that opener saying, hey, I follow you on social media. And then I can ask them about their business because I don't know, necessarily who they are. I can ask them about their business, get to know them, feel if there's synergy between us. And then that's a great introduction, a great partner. And I found that to be much more effective than kind of showing up at a networking event and telling people, oh, hey, this is what I do, right? If you can point them to your social media, or if they already know who you are from social media, that gives you that open door right away.
Okay. So you would say that social media has just as much of effective outcome as the face-to-face personal contact with the professional.
I think they're complementary. I think you definitely need a presence on social media, but then having a presence and being really niche in your industry and then going to networking events only gives you a leg up at the networking event.
Okay. Melissa, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's both, right? And it depends on what kind of business you have and what kind of audience you're trying to draw in. Who's your ideal customer? Where are they? I've grown businesses predominantly through networking, especially when I was growing in medical device sales. So I had to be in front of the doctors and in clinic and in the OR, and that was all face-to-face, right? There was no social media, at least at that time, involved in that. So that was a very important piece of my business, was getting in front of people so that we could form those connections. And then I've built a business that was a hybrid of the two. So when I built my beauty counter business, I did a lot of in-person networking with complementary local business owners. So I worked a lot with other female entrepreneurs in my area. And one of the things that I would do is you can look on like even meetup.com if you're looking for more of a niche to find out. So you're not just showing up in a room with all these people, to Brittany's point, where you're like, is this even the best use of my time? Because we don't all have an abundance of time, right? Absolutely. We're not just sitting around like figuring out how to fill it. So being really strategic about how you spend that time, where you're networking, who's in the room with you. So there are different ways to find those, whether you have things specific to your industry, or if you're a coach or somebody growing an online business, know where to look for those networks that are going to be the highest and best use of your time. So you're not spinning your wheels, because it's very easy to do. And then I think consistency online is always important. And that is a way that people can get to know you. If you're showing up in your authentic voice, if you're sharing your services, if you're doing regular call to actions, and you're making yourself known online, it's, even if you meet somebody in person, they can easily, which we all do, go to your social media page and see what you're all about. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's important to do both, but knowing, where is my audience? What's the highest and best use of my time are the questions that I would suggest asking yourself before, spending a lot of time in either one of the areas.
Okay, great. So this question's going back to Brittany, as to how, so we want to talk about the financial impact that starting a business can make. So how important is it for the entrepreneur to be able to make sure that they have all of the, all of the coins before they get started? So back here, I would like to share a little small story. So back here, I used to do lunch and learns with women in the area that we were in. And so I asked the question, I said, okay, so if you're starting, we're going to say a flower shop. You're starting a flower shop and you just got started. You got probably about 2 employees. You got to pay them and what have you. And so what would be would it be prevalent for you to purchase a van to travel to transport the flowers, or could you be able to, it'd be better for you to take the option to transport them in your own vehicle? Because see, it's very, very important that we don't go out and we just start buying up a lot of things just because we have a website, we, on social media, and everybody's patting us on the back. Oh, yay, she just started a chocolate factory or what have you. We have to be able to manage things financially and to know as to how to arrange and strategize our funds, or else we're going to be bankrupt before we even get started 7, 8, 9, 10 months down the road. So share with us a little bit about that.
So I know I mentioned earlier that I always wanted to have a business. I just wasn't quite sure what that business was going to be. Ended up being a law firm, which is aligned with being a lawyer. Right. But what I didn't say is that I hadn't planned out to start my law firm when it started. I actually had planned to start marketing. So this is in the middle of COVID. I started marketing my business on Instagram. I just started posting videos on my personal page in June or July of 2020. So mid-pandemic, nothing to do. It was like, I'm going to try this idea that I've had. 3 months later, I'm bringing in business at the firm. I'm getting great feedback. Now I started with my personal page. So I'm posting business content and I'm still posting personal content because that's how people connect with people, right? It's like, hey, I'm showing them I'm a real person to follow. And I live in South Florida. I posted a lot of pictures on boats or at the beach or at the pool. And my boss I was working for at the time was an older male, and he sat me down and said, hey, I don't want you to post bikini pictures anymore on your Instagram because you're posting business content. People are going to see that. This is coming from a man who also had pictures of himself and his family at the beach on Facebook, where he was also friends with people we worked with. That aside, that kind of just sparked something in me where I said, you know what? This is not aligned with what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm trying to create something new where we're showing that that lawyers are humans and that business people are humans. And I noticed that was getting a lot of feedback and traction. And I had this vision for what my marketing would be. And so I quit without anything ready or started anything. I mean, I did my first call with my first client and said, yeah, great, I'll send you over the contract. I didn't even have a contract typed up yet. I had to sit down and type up my contract that night. Like I was not ready and prepared. I had nothing ready to go, but I still did it. I said, you know what, we're going to figure this out. So I bootstrapped. I put my savings into it. I was very strategic about how I set my firm up. Like I went completely remote. So everybody was working at home during COVID and it was easy to meet with people on Zoom. So I never got an office. I still don't have an office. So I have 15 employees, no office. We have 7 figures in income, no office. We're very, very remote. So I was strategic about how I was doing things. And then I also knew in the beginning, well, I'm not going to have time to do everything because I want to grow exponentially. And so instead of bringing on a full team member who needed payroll and insurance and all the benefits that come with being an employee, instead I hired a freelance virtual assistant. And I just taught them how to do very replicable, easy administrative tasks so that I can get those off my plate and focus on the income generating tasks so I can bring that income in and grow quickly and then bring on the full team members. And of course, there's also soft money and hard money, soft money being, getting a loan or something from a family member or friend, which is usually, I mean, in my opinion, it's better than going hard money first, which is getting it from a bank or a loan, because usually your family and friends will work with you, give you better interest rates, things like that. So going those routes, being intentional about how you're setting up your company in the beginning, and then, bootstrapping and using soft money to really get that cash flow in at first is really important focus rather than, trying to set up your business how it's going to look 5 years from now on day one, because that's going to require so much capital up front. You're going to stint yourself from growing exponentially.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. Okay, stay home. Okay, wow. Okay, we're gonna
In
love
my
that.
home office right now.
Okay, wow. Okay, Melissa.
I mean, I agree with everything you said, and I also believe in and I think so many entrepreneurs are building the plane while they're flying it, right? Because the idea you have in the beginning, and this kind of speaks to when do you start, right? Sometimes it's that moment where you're like, oh yeah, no more, I'm not doing this anymore. And I love that you chose your whole self versus abandoning that and going off on your own. I think that's amazing and something that women need to do more often because it's incredibly important that we are able to show up authentically as ourselves in all areas of our life and not have to hide certain parts of us. I started in a similar fashion. I had hired a business coach because I knew that I wanted to launch my business. So I took savings to invest in that so I could have some strategy around my launch.
Okay.
And I had this idea of how it would go. I was like, well, it has to be all perfectly lined up and I have to have everything built ahead of time and then I'll bring in clients. And of course not. So I did one webinar and I had 3 people afterwards that were like, so do you want to just coach me now? Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have this package. You don't have to have everything ready. Kind of like Brittany. I was like, I didn't have a contract. I'm like, okay, let's figure this out together. And so, I've been learning the how as I go and self-funding my coaching business from my savings and from my other business. And my husband runs a family business. And so it's been wonderful to have his experience because I have a corporate background. And so whenever somebody needs the soft money or the hard money, I'm like, hey, here you go. Here's my husband because he loves Excel spreadsheets and can really help people map out what are your actual expenses? When do you think you're going to need to bring on employees? What is the most strategic timing to onboard those employees? So if they need a brick and mortar, it's obviously a much different scenario than Brittany or I working from our homes, right? Or having a virtual situation. So I really appreciate having his help because that's not something that I have a desire to ever learn,
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I think it's like you don't have to know the whole picture before you get started, right? Before my first step was hiring a virtual assistant as well to start offboarding some of the things so I could get out of my business and stay in my zone of genius. And then I hired an online business manager, and then I had hired a marketing person, and then I hired a PR person, so I started to just, as I was ready to grow and expand, bring on more people as my revenue increased. So yeah, so it's
Wow.
definitely different when you're working from home, but it's a true gift to be able to create your own business in your own way and grow it on your own time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with a couple of more questions, there's a very serious emergency that just came up, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to kind of try to cut it short. I'm sorry, but we want to talk about the what ifs. What ifs? It's important to think about the what ifs down the road. So this question is for Brittany. Is it important for us? Okay, so we're living in uncertain times. We had the COVID, and we got the monkeypox, we got all of these things, and then we have to rearrange our businesses. Even though they're online, we still have to rearrange some things, even with these things that just come up at the last minute. Now we have the polio, we have all kinds of things that distract us. So how important is it for an entrepreneur to set some things in perspective, just in case of the what ifs?
There's always going to be what ifs. Even if we lived in perfect times, there's always going to be a what if this happens and a what if that happens. And, it's very important as entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, to be able to bifurcate what is my reality, what's my goals here, and what's noise, right? I always ask myself, okay, like I'm worrying about, oh, what if this person doesn't sign the contract? Well, what if they don't? Another person will sign my contract. I'll serve this person next. What if somebody leaves my team? Well, then we're going to make room for another person to leave the team. So it's kind of shifting your thoughts into, okay, this is an unhelpful thought. Constantly worrying is going to take your energy away from the main goal.
Absolutely.
So think about what is recognizing that thought. What is that thought that's sucking my energy out, that's making me worry every day? I can't sleep because of it. Shifting it into a helpful thought, a positive thought, something that you can get behind, that's going to make you focus on what are your goals, what are you trying to accomplish. Just going back to the root reason that you started your company, the root product or service that you offer to your clients. I think the what if is just something that is maybe a survival instinct from, way back when we were, not living in safe houses and, running companies. Our
Okay.
minds are always going to go to the what's the worst scenario because we want
Right.
to prepare for it. But we need to make sure we're shifting our focus back to we can always handle the scenario. We're always going to figure it out. That's what my fiance is a business person as well. And I hear him on the phone all the time and he'll say, yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Get off the phone. And I'll be like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Melissa?
Yeah, I agree. It's not a if, it's a when. Like life is, we have this illusion that it's predictable, that it's constant, and that somehow we can circumvent change, which is not true at all. I mean, every single thing changes all the time. And I think being in these times where we've been living through a global pandemic has really shown a light on that, where we're like, oh, wow, we can't actually predict tomorrow or control anything outside of our own selves and our own nervous systems. So I used to be somebody who was chronically anxious for a large portion of my life until really my early 30s.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh gosh, this is genetic. This is the way that I am. I am anxious. And
Right. Okay.
I have done a lot of work on regulating my own nervous system. So I do a lot of somatic work, a lot of embodiment work. I agree with Brittany in noticing your thoughts and deciding which thoughts you'd like to choose, because you don't have to stick with the thoughts that pop into
Right.
your monkey mind. You can choose new ones and literally rewire your brain
Right.
and learn to regulate your nervous system. And I think it's the single most powerful thing that we can do, because life is always going to be throwing on this roller coaster. And so it's not about never falling down. It's not about being super positive all the time. Things are going to happen. When you can learn how to feel them and feel them in a way that's healthy for you and move through them more efficiently in a regulated way, then you're more equipped to handle what life has always been doing and what it's going to keep doing. And I think especially as an entrepreneur, and I don't know that there's that much certainty in corporate either. Companies are constantly getting bought out and merging, and people are getting laid off, and pandemics are happening. And so, but I do think as an entrepreneur, you can really benefit from learning how to surrender, learning how to let go of control, learning how to trust yourself, learning how to trust that the future will hold you. And the more that you can do that, the more you'll actually enjoy the entire journey.
Okay. Wow. Just awesome answers. Awesome answers. Of course, before we get ready to close, we always like for our audience to follow the guest. Okay. So here's the time where you all get an opportunity to shine. So share with the audience where they can be able to find you, any publications that you would like for them to refer in reference to in your brand. Share any of your social media handles, your website site links, because when we share with the audience, that helps them to be able to follow up with you later on, network with your brand. Okay, now I see where Brittany is going with that. Maybe I didn't get all of the scraps that I needed and the meat and potatoes, but now I can continue to follow her on these social media sites, and I can be able to learn a little bit more about her law practice and how she got started. So we're going to start with Brenda. You can go ahead. Brittany, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Diane. I am most active on Instagram. So you can find me at lawyer.britt with 2 T's, LAWYR.BRITT. And you can also find my workshop on lawyerbritt.co, not com, but co/workshop. I'm most active on Instagram because that's where I started my company. And actually, when I started my company, I didn't even have a website. I had absolutely nothing, but I ended up signing 100 clients in 100 days. And that's kind of what I go into in my workshop it's lawyerbritt.co/workshop. And I also talk about how I've built my business and created my law firm to be a 7-figure firm in the first year at my my podcast called The Modern Professional, which is everywhere, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you listen to a podcast.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, wow.
Thanks.
Okay, Melissa?
Yes, so my company's called The Ripple Connection, and I'm also very active on Instagram as well. So it's at The Ripple Connection. And my website is the same, www.therippleconnection.com. And I have an upcoming masterclass coming up around why it's essential to integrate the feminine in business. So that's at therippleconnection.com/masterclass. So if that's something that interests you, you can check it out there.
Okay, wonderful. So ladies, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to share your expertise with our audience on today in regards to start a business. And the audience has learned a lot, and you all have unpacked a lot. Attorney Britt, okay, that is so, I'm talking about behind the desk, okay, you don't have to get up, you don't have to do anything, but just sit behind. Okay, that is so phenomenal, okay, for both of you all. So thank you so much once again for being our guest on the day. And so listeners, follow us back next Tuesday on Women Who Rock with Success, and then you can go to our website at www.womenwhorockwithsuccessmedia to find out the latest in what we do. So ladies, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.